Nicole. Thanks so much for coming by.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. These are my colleagues, Kim and Scott.
Hey, Linda.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Kim. Hi, Scott. So nice to meet you. Well, so tell me about what you're doing. I'm so excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so I know we were talking about our Myers-Briggs personality tests and
Yes.
just some of your challenges with your faculty. So
Yeah.
we've put
Oh my gosh.
together, it's intimidating, I think, but we've put together kind of an online training for faculty development, just to, let instructors dip their toes in, see what the difference is between teaching online and teaching in person and how they can go about bringing their curriculum online. Just so it's, it's self-paced, so it's a little less scary than kind of throwing everything all at once. They can go through it at their own pace.
Okay, so is it all online or is it blended or how's the format? What's it like?
So the workshop itself is all online, but we also have staff instructional designers. So if they get caught up with anything, they can talk to somebody in person. If they're like, this is really just too much to have the training itself online, there is kind of a blended option to it. But I think the ideal scenario would be to have them go through the workshop online. That way they can really walk the walk that they're going to be using.
And is it all based in Myers-Briggs or are you looking at any other sort of psychological models or what?
Yeah, so it's also based on the traditional learning theories and just the psychological process of learning that Bloom's taxonomy, you want to remember, understand, comprehend. So it's all the traditional learning foundational theories too.
Interesting. And so, oh yeah, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that there are studies out there that show that online learning, in terms of personalities, it actually tends to help foster discussion between classmates that would be inhibited in a traditional sense. For whatever reason, having that barrier of online learning, having that barrier of a screen allows them to express themselves a little bit more in depth than they might in person for fear of offending somebody for some reason.
Sure, that makes sense, and so the thing that I like about it sounds like that the faculty can participate from all over, like they could be participating, from
Yeah.
if they are in the field or they're away on sabbatical or something like that, they could still participate. Is that right?
Well, the flexibility that online learning provides, wherever you have an internet connection, you could be a teacher or you could be a student. It's really at your own pace and at your leisure. Whereas, a traditional, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from this time to this time, may not fit people's lifestyles, in this day and age.
Yeah, no, I know, and we do have some online courses. A lot of our faculty, to be honest with you, a lot of our faculty is not super excited about jumping into the online thing. They think it's a little bit, somehow less real, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really trying to promote a culture where we can be open to both ideas.
One thing that we want to emphasize with this idea of online learning is that there's so many options now with online learning that allow for so much interaction and collaboration between the participants in the class as well as the instructor with his or her students. And so we really want to have the faculty become comfortable with this idea that online learning has really revolutionized and that you're not really losing ownership of your classroom. It's just a different way to have your classroom meet all the participants at different points in their life, at different, kind of working more with their schedules, and they're still feeling interaction with their peers, just in a different setting altogether.
Sure, and I think part of faculty's apprehension is usually, I have to amend my curriculum to an online environment. But really, they have their class. They know what works. It's really just about knowing how to bring that online and make the most of the tools available to them. So they can, they can have synchronous or asynchronous meetings. They can make sure that their students are working together collaboratively in groups. So it's not that they need to, make their class only online. They just need to figure out how their course is enhanced by technology.
It's important.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Scott. No, I want to ask just a quick question about that. In terms of, kinesthetic learners and people that are really more hands-on, because that's another thing that I've thought about in terms of, some of my colleagues have some really engaging techniques where they really get out in the community and do things in a very hands-on way. And so I'm wondering how I could support them with the use of online courses or some sort of blended course.
Well, certainly, I mean, classes of that nature, a blended model, could also work in which the readings and the discussions can be carried out online, and you could also schedule in advance, meeting times where they can have those kind of interpersonal, face-to-face discussions and activities. It's important.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's important that the faculty understand that their class is still going to be their class. All of their content is still going to be their content. It's just taking what they know how to do, already know how to do so well, and putting it on a format that can now reach far more people than they were able to before.
And there are also, I'm not sure what kind of budget constraints we have, but there are also companies that can take an online image, you can print it out and use devices like smartphones or tablets or things like that to view it as kind of an augmented reality. So for example, if there was a biology professor, there are companies nowadays where you can, they set up a kind of like a QR code that you can print out from anywhere and then use your device, and it'll show on your device an augmented reality photo of a cell, and you could break down the layers of the cell and things like that. So you can still have like audio, visual, hands-on things without necessarily being in the same room.
Interesting. That sounds, and actually you read my mind because I was going to ask you about the financial aspects of it.
Sure.
What are the costs involved? Because, like we talked about on the plane, I'm very interested, and I've been talking to a lot of my colleagues about it, and I think there is some genuine interest. But I do want to see how it's going to fit in terms of our overall budget and, how it will really work with the big picture.
Yeah, so there's a really wide range of possibilities. If we're building out the online training workshop, if we build it, say, in any of the LMSs, they all have a free version of that. There's a lot of free polling tools that are really fun to use for assessment or quizzes. So there's anywhere from that to that augmented reality situation, and that's probably on the pricier end of things, but there's a myriad of ways to mix and match free options and, paid subscription things like Articulate Storyline, but there's a huge scale that you can choose from that we can customize.
And so then is your role in this being like sort of a guide in it or a helper in terms of setting it all up, like looking at our consulting with us to look at how we can adapt what we're doing to be involve more technology?
Yeah, exactly. So we're the head of the instructional design department. So we would be taking this course and developing it for training your faculty.
I definitely think our role in this would be some sort of an educational technologist team that will work with your faculty, take the content that they already have developed for their classes, and figure out ways that they can produce their courses in fun, interactive, engaging, collaborative settings online. So we really want to. They're the subject matter specialists, and we're just working with them to find the technologies that they're comfortable with, mitigate any apprehension they may have about using this type of technology for their classroom, and then kind of just figuring out what's the best blend to really make them comfortable with this transition into online learning.
Speaking from a budget
Yeah, that
standpoint.
sounds great.
Speaking from a budget standpoint, it's also to keep in mind. Every class that you bring online is a classroom that you're saving money on in electricity and other costs that can go back into the online learning because your students are now, they're virtual, they're in their own homes or their workplaces taking the course.
Right. I just think that's a little tricky in terms of it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because sometimes if people are so remote, we want them to have still a sense that there's a tie to our school, that there's a sense of, have you done any studies on that, like in terms of alumnus, like what their loyalty factor is, or if they've done primarily, remote
I can't,
learning, or whether they've been on campus?
I can't say that I've personally done any studies on it, but I can tell you from a personal standpoint, I've done my undergraduate and graduate work on both fully online and blended learning platforms, and I have a fondness for every institution that I was a member of.
Wow, okay. Well, that's great. Thank you for letting me know that, because that personal experience I think is really, really valuable. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so are
So
there any
let me ask
other-
you something about, I just want to ask you one more thing about the training with the faculty.
Sure.
So is this something that would we be doing this, would the training itself happen in a blended fashion? Would there be something like, we do have an annual conference where we get everybody together, kind of a planning retreat. Would it be something that would happen in conjunction with something like that, or, and what's the time commitment?
the time commitment for the faculty?
Yeah.
So, our original plan was to have an online workshop that they could take in a self-paced way, so that they can go at their own leisure. But I would say, on average, maybe it would take them about 15 to 20 hours to go through total. And
Oh,
then we can
okay.
definitely, and then we can have our staff instructional designers available for questions and in-person tutorials if they need. And if that's the case, we can bring both the online components and the staff IDs to the conference.
And I think, Linda, just to expand on what you asked, for the actual training of the faculty to use this model, we would want to model it in our own fashion using that blended. So having their training module
Yeah.
done with us
Okay.
presently there physically for a portion, and then having them independently work on an online platform similar to what they would be using. So they can start to build that comfortability with the software that we plan for them to use in the websites.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I think that if we can get everybody a chance to not only really experience it, but then also have a chance to have some face-to-face time too, I think that would be a real win-win.
Right.
That sounds great.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Gosh, I don't think I do have any other questions. I think that this is really exciting. I'm happy to meet you all and hear about, you've got some fantastic ideas, and I'm gonna need to look at, I'm still a little unclear about the cost factor, like how that works in.
Yeah, we can definitely send you some follow-up information about that.
Yeah, we can do some research on our end as well. Maybe just kind of look at some of the possible technologies that we can integrate into the curriculum, and then kind of figure out ballpark figures for what the cost would be, and then have that sent over to you.
Yeah, so let's just look at that initial, like doing a workshop kind of, thing for the faculty. And is there any sort of limit in terms of numbers, like numbers of faculty?
No,
I don't think so, no.
believe there should be.
Okay, great. All right, well, if you can send over the information, and then, let's look to, I would love to have that be part of our conference this year. I think that would be an exciting addition.
Awesome. Great.
Wonderful, we look forward to working
Yeah,
with you.
looking forward to it.
All right, really nice meeting with you today.
Thank you
Nice
so
to
much
meet
for
you
your
as
time,
well.
Linda.
Thank you.
Thanks, take care.
You too.
Bye.